Ladies and gentlemen, today I have the honor and the privilege to interview one of my musical heroes and top producer, drummer, guitarist, and songwriter, the one and only Stefan Kaufmann. Hi, man. How you
Hello.
doing?
Hi, I'm fine. How are you?
Doing great. Nice shirt, by the way.
Well, yeah. I like it. I think it's a nice, how do you call it, emblem, and it makes my chest look wider.
All right. So let's start. Let's see what I have here. Uh, First of all, thank you very much for your time. I've been a huge fan of all your work throughout Accept and UDO careers. I've been searching all over the internet for in-depth interviews with you in English, but they are kind of hard to find. So I hope this one could be a great resource to fans all over the world that appreciate your work as much as I do, right?
Okay, okay,
I would like to go in a kind of chronological order,
mhm,
starting at the year 1982.
okay.
Well, you probably know that you are often referred to as that guy from Accept by the Anthrax guys, the Metallica guys. They always mention Fast as a Shark as the pivotal song that started off the whole genre, the that was to be called thrash metal.
Okay.
And as far as I know, you're the main writer of that song, at least the main part, which is definitely the double bass and the riff that goes along with that, right?
Um, let's put it this way. I know for sure who wrote which part. So I know for sure that Peter wrote the chorus, and I know that for sure Wolf wrote the bridge part, and of course the whole solo part with all the twin guitar
Hmm.
stuff. But I came up with his main guitar riff, and I came up with the verse part. So still actually remember when I'm in the evening, we all met in the rehearsal room, and I came up with this with this riff, and everybody thought that it's like a halftime riff, so it's called a. So everybody
I
thought that,
see.
and so I showed the riff to the guys, and they played it, and then I cut in with the drums, of course, double, and everybody stopped. Everybody stopped. Was like, what in the hell are you doing there? So I'm playing the song.
Oh
That's
my
the
God.
idea. I go, what? That's way too fast. I said, no. I think that's a good thing. And so after whatever, playing it for 2 or 3 minutes, just this part, everybody got used to it, and then the song itself was written in maybe another 15 minutes or something like that, except for the solo part that took a little bit longer. But to get together the riff, verse, bridge, and chorus part, that was maybe 15 minutes, and then the whole song was set there, and everybody was pretty happy about it. But still, everybody was kind of laughing. It was like, really, should we really do this? It's like kind of nobody done this before. So, yeah, so what? And then in the end, we produced the album ourselves, but Michael Wagner was the recording engineer for it. Um, Everybody agreed that this should be the first song on the album, and so this is how it came across. But it was never back in those days. A lot of people tend to put too much sense into things like that. We never
Mhm.
thought about it. We simply played it, and we simply loved it, and we simply put it on the album. So without thinking. And so in the end, I know it's still what we call an evergreen, right?
And you guys were like, you were genius because you put the intro to that song to make it more uh,
Yeah.
contrast, right?
Yeah. That was done on purpose because we thought, okay, this is now really hard stuff what we are playing here, and so we wanted, like it's kind of like a generation clash. The parents always listening to folk music or whatever, country and western in America, and over here what we call Schlager. All this boring stuff for us young kids. And so we said, okay, we want this contrast, and somebody ripping off, you know, the arm of the record player and then putting on the proper music. And of course, in the beginning, everybody thought, I've heard this from a lot of people who bought the record, because we also got this crackling on it. So it sounded like it's a broken
From
record.
the record, yeah.
You know, and so everybody, the reaction was, everybody said this was like, wow, what is this? I bought the wrong record. What? And then they went to the record player and wanted to put it, and then what the hell am I doing? And then Udo screaming, and there was, oh no, I bought the right record, you know. And so yeah, it was quite a big impact back in those days.
Very cool, very cool. Thanks for clarifying that to me. You've said something very important to this interview. You said that you remember very well who wrote what. That's a huge part for me, because every time I got a record, I tend to read the credits to kind of know the musicians involved. Oh, this sounds like that guy. Could you give me one or two examples of songs that you initiated on that record, the Restless and Wild record?
That I initiated?
Yeah.
What songs are on the record?
For instance, Get Ready, Don't Go Stealing My Soul Away, Demon's Night, Flash Rocking Man.
With Accept, it was always that. For example, I remember I initiated Princess of the Dawn, but not musical wise. So it was not like that. I came up with a riff or something like that. But I came up with the idea of like a fairy tale, you know, a long fairy tale with a lot of lyrics and with a lot of this, you know, snow on the mountain and white frost on the moors, and you know, something mythical and stuff like that. And my idea was it should be kind of monotone, you know, and simply Udo telling a story, and then you know, having this Princess of the Dawn thing somewhere in the middle. So the guys also loved or liked the idea. And then, as much as I remember, Wolf came up with this monotone riff, you know, simply like, you know, over and over and over again, no harmonies, no nothing, and then simply one harmony change for the chorus. And he came up with that. And so that, I remember that was a song that developed in the studio. So we wrote, mainly I wrote the lyric for it, like tons and tons of lyrics, you know, I don't know, fucking 20 verses or something like that. And so we decided in one of the very, that was the first time ever that I simply played a drum beat for 10 minutes or something like that. And then Wolf and Peter played simply the riff on it. And then we started recording the vocals. And then we said, okay, now we should do the chorus. So they went back in, played this other part, who was saying the chorus. So it really developed in the studio, because we didn't know, I mean, how the whole song would in the end come out. We only knew, okay, we want all those verses, we want all that, but we have to have some kind of a build up. And then in the end, even, I mean, when you listen closely to it, like the tom breaks and stuff like that, they are overdubbed. So there's still the normal beat underneath, you know, because we kept this. I mean, nowadays you would simply do it with a drum machine, you know, do the whole arrangement, stuff like that, and then record everything properly. But back in those days, I think we recorded it in late 81. I think we started recording it, or 82. I don't remember. Sometimes before the war. This is how the song developed. So I, like, not musical wise, it was my idea, but the idea was, you know, this kind of song, to create this kind of song, you know. But what I wanted to say is that with Accept, it was always that we have been in the rehearsal room like 7 days a week back in those days, you know, like meeting every day and like writing every day and having ideas every day. And so sometimes it was simply like, what did you play there? I'll do that again. I cut in or whatever, you know, something like somebody was humming something. And so I would say like 70 or 80% of the ideas really develop together. and that was maybe a strong point with Accept, that it was not like somebody came up with a finished song,
Mm-hmm.
but it developed within the band. I mean, obviously, very often there was a riff maybe, or maybe there was a chorus melody or something like that. But for example, I was always dependent on Wolf, for example, because he, to me, is still one of the best riff writers I know. So I never cared about guitar riffs back in those days. So I had an idea maybe, and then I said, okay, you do the riff. And I could,
Oh.
depend on it, that the riff would fit, and this is how, and Peter always came up with those special little, not always in every song, but, with a special little gadget, with an extra melody, or with an extra vocal line, or with some extra chords, or because Peter was one of those musicians who liked it a little bit complicated.
Mm-hmm.
And still, actually, I meet with him at the end of the week. He's going to visit me again for 2 weeks. We're going to do some writing,
Mm-hmm.
and it's always that I have to stop him. It's like, look, I don't understand. If I don't understand it, the guys outside don't understand it as well. So keep it simple, please. So, but anyway, it was always, a band procedure to, write the songs.
Oh, nice. I know you as a riff making machine in UDO. So I thought back in Accept you would have like a guitar by your side every time, by the
I
drums.
didn't. No, I didn't have a guitar by my side, but I mean, Wolf had enough guitars standing around there. So whenever I had an idea, I simply grabbed one of his guitars and stuff like that. And then I, said, look, this is what I got in mind, or something like that, and then we did whatever, quickly playing together or something like that. This is how we did it. And then later, let's say in the since Balls or Metal Heart already, I mean, there the little multi-track recorders came up,
Mhm.
where you could do some ideas by yourself. So you had a little drum machine, and you could come up with an idea like that. When, for example, when we wrote Balls the Wall, we did this in the rehearsal room, but we had a rented or borrowed 4-track tape machine.
Mhm.
So there we could, work a little bit more in detail than we could before. And also when we were writing Metal Heart, we did this in Vermont, in the United States. We rented a house there for 6 weeks or something like that. And after the long first American tour, we stayed there and wrote Metal Heart. And there also we had this, I think we had actually an 8-track recorder, which was, top of the line back in those days.
Mhm.
And there we developed all the songs for Metal Heart. But again, it was a teamwork. We set up all the stuff basically like now in the living room of this house. We had the
Mhm.
Marshalls there, and we had the drums there and stuff like that. And then simply, having breakfast in the middle of the equipment, and then starting to, record ideas and do things like that. So I really have to emphasize this, that with Accept, it was always till at least till the end, until I left the band in whatever 94, something like that.
94.
It was always like a lot of teamwork, developing songs together. And I think again that was a strong part of the band.
Cool. Well, let's go on to 1983, Balls to the Wall. My favorite Accept album. Is it yours too?
I must say that I have three favorites because to me that they show the development of the band, and that is Breaker, Restless, and Balls.
Okay.
Because all 3 albums are recorded more or less live, with of course vocals were overdubbed and solos. Actually, with Breaker, everything was live except for the vocals. Even the solos were played
Really?
in one. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So if you listen to Breaker, really everything, also the twin solo and Starlight and all that stuff, it was all recorded live. And so I like those 3 albums, and I still like to listen to those 3 albums in a row, because number one, you can see the development of the band. Number two, every album has a very own atmosphere, and when I only need to listen to whatever 5 seconds of it, and I see the studio where we recorded it, how we recorded it, how the setup of the equipment was and stuff like that. And I mean, of course, Metal Heart and Russian Roulette and all the other albums, they're also pretty good, but they were done in a more sophisticated way. And those 3 albums were done in, I would say, the accept way, like straightforward. Because the first 2 albums, I didn't play the first, but the second, they were done by a producer, and everything was, very well organized. Then Metal Heart, of course, with Dieter Dirks, we learned a lot, and I still, learned a lot from him. But they were more organized albums. But those 3 albums, they were not organized. They were simply like tape machine running, 1, 2, 3, 4, let's record. And this is why those 3 albums, in this order, are actually my favorite albums. Actually, also when we did this reunion with Objection Overruled, that again, we did a little bit more in the pre-production stuff. So already back in those days, then we had 24-track stuff, to do demos and stuff like that. But then the final recording was simply like 1, 2, 3, 4, and the 3 of us simply playing the song, overdubbing a second guitar and the solos, and overdubbing the vocals, And so I would say, okay, those 3 albums plus Objection Overruled, they were simply done live, also the way the band played live. And this is why I like those albums. Don't get me wrong, I also like the other ones, but atmosphere-wise and power-wise, and to represent the band the way it was, those 3 or 4 albums to me are my most favorite ones.
Nice. It's so cool to have this inside view, because we never had this. I never read anything about those recordings. So thanks a lot. You did a tour, a US tour with Kiss, right? During that time. How much time did the song Balls to the Wall take to hit big? You remember that? Was it as soon as the album came out?
No, I remember that. I remember that the management back in those days, they said, this is going to be a big hit, and unfortunately, it's 1 album too early. And we also thought, why? We don't know. So in the beginning, it was simply a cool title, Balls to the Wall. And of course, it was the first song on the record. But for us, it was just another song, So I think that on Balls to the Wall, I like every song on it, Leather Boys Turn Me On and all the stuff. It's all good songs. But for us, in the beginning, it was simply just another song. And we didn't actually, I think in this, before we did the US tour, we played the song live, but somewhere in the middle of the program, something like totally normal. But we already realized that, people were singing along with the chorus and stuff like that.
Already.
Okay. So as much as I remember when we played in America, together with Kiss and a lot of other bands, we said, okay, let's try to play it as a last song. It's a good sing-along song. It's a good rhythm. It's a good, bang-along song. So let's play it at the last song. Also, what we never did when we did support or special guest or whatever, we never did encores. So we said, okay, we got 45 minutes or 60 minutes or whatever. We simply play through. And so we could, have the strongest song or the whatever, we could conduct the whole concert the way we intended. I mean, in the end, we also did this when we played headline shows and stuff like that. We played it as the last encore. So, but we found out basically in America, or before we went to America, we found out that something was about this song. And but when the album came out, or when we wrote it, or when we recorded it and stuff like that, for us it was just another song. So actually it was the reaction of the public, of the audience, that we found out that obviously it's a good song.
Nice. So that reaction from the crowd actually led to the making of the video? Led you to the making of this video?
No, because the video was done before the release, you know.
Oh.
So we did this video. Actually, it was done in London, close to London Heathrow, close to the airport. I remember this, and it was done sometime in the winter. For sure in the winter time. I don't know, December or January or something like that. It was ice cold, and it was outside, and we were freezing our balls off. And believe me, and a storm came up. Ooh. So what you see on the video is not like wind machines. It's actually storm. And so it blew off the marshals from the stage, and it blew off, you know, the lighting rig and all that stuff, and it blew off part of my drum kit and stuff like that. So it was really like, it was a mess. It was hilarious. It was, but it was not as much as I remember. It was the decision of record company and management to do this song as a video, actually to single edit without all the middle part and stuff like that. Yeah. So it was, so it was not our decision to do it, but obviously marketing wise it was the right decision.
Cool. All right. Regarding the Metal Heart era, I recall you saying, and you said here, that you learned a lot of studio trickery during the making of that album in particular, like the gang vocals, for instance. Is that correct?
No. The gang vocals we learned with on the Balls to the Wall album, because we had the recording engineer was Lou Austin, and Lou Austin he did, for example, the Suite, and he was also with.
Oh, really?
Actually, Lou Austin recorded Fox on the Run.
Whoa!
The best sounding single Suite ever had. And he was also with Judas Priest. I think he was second engineer or something like that. Ooh. And so he taught us more or less how to do the gang vocals, you know. So he said, number one, you need a lot of tracks. Okay. Number two, you need also a lot of tracks that are out of tune, where you sing, you know, totally out of tune. Sing, you know, like when you imagine a football stadium or a soccer stadium, when they all sing and it all sounds great, it sounds big, but believe me, not everybody is singing in tune. And so he came up with this technique of, I remember this because back in those days, we couldn't fly in the vocals. So we had to sing every chorus, we had to sing every bridge part, you know, God bless you and all that stuff. And he was like very fast. It was like, while he was, you know, changing the recording track, he was rewinding the machine, and all we heard, next, and you know, it was really like bam, 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 and automatically we, you know, at the end of the song, you were like exhausted, and it was like balls on the wall and stuff like that. And this is how we, he taught us how to do proper gang vocals, proper massive big backing vocals. So that was then in the end done also on the other records. On Metal Heart, I have the impression that it's a little bit too clean, you know, again, because it was more organized. And when you do those gang vocals, you shouldn't be organized. I mean, Soccer Station is not organized, you know.
Yeah. That leads me to another question. I always hear, especially in UDO, harmony vocals alongside with the gang vocals. So you have at least some of the guys singing the proper 3-part harmony, and you add up the out of tune singers.
Basically, it's actually normally a 4-point harmony, so it's always the octave with it. So it's normally a gang vocal sung 4-point harmony plus an out of tune or
Crowd.
out of tune tracks crowd. Yes, exactly. So that gives it, because the 4-point harmony, I mean, when you sing distorted and stuff like that, it doesn't sound like, you know, a nice choir. It's still massive, but it gives it a little bit more width and a little bit more depth and a little bit more range, you know. So basically 90% of the gang vocals, also on Objection Overruled or all the UDO albums and stuff like that, they are 3 or 4-point harmonies actually, plus out of tune stuff, and then mixed together. Well, the way it's mixed. There's also another trick that Lou Austin taught us. He said, if you want to have those gang vocals sound big, make them a little bit too quiet, because then you have the impression that they are over there, they are way back there. You know, it's they are, you know, and it's true. If you turn them up, if the level is too high, it's too definite. It's too you know,
too much in your face, like
too much in your face.
It's not natural.
You know, so he said, when you mix the stuff and you are happy with a mix, just turn them down 2 dBs or something like that without thinking about it, you know. And that was another trick, and that's a trick that I still use today.
Nice. Is it hard panning? I mean, left and right. You play with all that.
It's always hard panning. It's always, normally what we do is, or what I do when I record those kind of vocals, I do 4 tracks of every singer per harmony. So, for example, I don't know, when you listen to the We Are One album together with the orchestra, we had 144 backing vocal tracks. So because we got, you know, we got myself, we got Sven, we got Peter, we got Manuela, I don't know, we got Inka, and we got Menana and stuff like that. And everybody did 16 tracks.
Oh my God.
You know, and then put together, depending on if you wanted to have it sound nicely, so you added a little bit more of the girls. If you wanted it to sound like, you know, simply a little bit more like gang stuff, it was more like the boys. And if you wanted to have like a massive choir, you did it all, you know. And sometimes you did you put away the distorted vocals and had it more clean and stuff like that. It was great. I mean, it was an unbelievable work of art to put this together, because I put it together up here. We had, you know, we had some songs that had more than 300 tracks, you know, and that was like hilarious. And we were 3 people mixing it together, because one guy from the orchestra, then Mattis, of course, myself, and then simply like, you know, putting it together the way it was supposed to be. In the end, I like it. But basically, it's done the same way we did it with UDO or with Accept. So it's always harmonies, and then deciding if the harmonies should be heard in a nice way, or if they should be simply there to widen the gang vocal.
Thank you so much for clarifying that. I'm a big fan of your style, of your production style, and I've copied a lot of things. I'm a producer myself.
Okay.
I also play guitar, sing, and the works.
Okay.
Let me check. 1986. It seems to me that although the band broke up with Udo, you all remained friends. You all remained in good terms, right? Because those songs on his first solo record, the Animal House, they were written by Accept. At least it's credited to Accept. But there's a story that you guys wrote those songs for Accept, not for his solo album. Could you elaborate on that, please?
It was that when it was not like a long-term planning to separate with Udo. I also must emphasize that I was not happy with this decision, but it was a decision of basically the production company, the management, and part of the band. Anyway, so that was the way it was. That was after the '86 tour. So we, Peter, Wolf, and I, we again went to Vermont for 7 or 8 months or something like that, and writing songs without having a singer. So Peter did all the demo, all the vocal singing and stuff like that, and we knew that Udo was about to form his own band, UDO, which, by the way, is a little mistake because it was supposed to sound Udo. The name should have been Udo, but there were those screws, in between the letters, and then the journalists thought that they were dots, and they thought it was UDO, but they said no, it's Udo. But anyway, that was just just a sidekick. Anyway, and so then it was actually again the management who said that it would be good for musical wise and also image wise and stuff like that if we would write this album together, Animal House. And I remember that a lot of stuff, they were actually initially my ideas because they were like old fashioned, except riffing choruses and stuff like that. So there was a lot of leftovers also on Peter's and on Wolf's side and stuff like that. So we put this album together in, I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks. We wrote all the songs. And I remember that I said, well, it sounds like a very good Accept album.
Very, very good
Accept album. And in the end, I remember that I had the idea for They Want War.
Really?
In the end, because I intended They Want War as a song similar to Balls to the Wall, also like a hymn part or stuff like that. But the decision in the business part of Accept was that we should be more commercial, that we should, have the usual stuff. It happened to every band back in the '80s, and everybody wanted to be successful on the American market. For the American market, you needed to have, like a nicer voice, nicer vocals, nicer choruses, blah blah blah, all that
cleaner production, right?
Everything cleaner and stuff like that. But I already back in those days said, more successful. We have double gold and all that stuff. How much more successful do you want to get? So, but anyway, you can see that I was never happy with this decision. It was really something like where I thought, this is wrong. This is really, really wrong. Anyway, the only solution that would have been there, I could have left the band, which obviously I didn't want to. And so I had to live with these decisions. And so, yeah, this is how Animal House was written. And then we also kind of supervised the recording because back in those days, we didn't have internet or stuff like that. So they also FedExed some cassettes or something like that over to America from the stuff they recorded in Germany.
So it was done remotely. You were in Germany? And here
No.
You were in America.
We were in America, and Udo, with his newly formed band, was in Dirk's studio again in Germany, and they recorded this album. And we simply not supervised it because it was produced by Dodson. What's his first name?
Mark
Dodson. Exactly. Was produced by Mark Dodson, but we always got those when they recorded, when they had done the playbacks and when they had done the vocal stuff like that, they sent tapes over to us so that we can say, okay, yeah, that's everything was fine, everything was nice, but that we knew what was going on, or if they played something wrong or something like that. So this is how this record developed. And in parallel, we wrote Eat the Heat. And I remember that it took us 8 months to write 8 songs. And from those 8 songs, I think only 5 were on the record, because the other 5 or other 6 we wrote when we were back in Germany. So to me, it was like total wrong decisions in every part, business-wise, musical-wise, personally, everything felt wrong. And then after, it was, I don't know, I know that Eat the Heat, when it came out, went down the drain. It's good songs on it, no doubt about it. But I think the production took 12 or 14 months to record. This was, again, so far away from what Accept, should have been. It was like 1, 2, 3, 4, let's record it. And like after 4 or 6 weeks, album is recorded. Thank you very much. And that was everything was so different, songwriting wise, then, with another singer, then with a high-tech production over a year and stuff like that. So
the drum sound sounds nothing like you had before.
It's fucking horrible. It's fucking horrible, the drum sound. I think the whole sound is horrible. I like the songs. Most of the songs are very nice, good songs on it. But the production is horrible. The sound is horrible. The singer is horrible. Yes, yeah. Look. I'm 60 years old. I can tell you the truth. I don't give a flying fuck. So nobody. I mean, I wasn't happy with the album at all. Then came the tour. Then came all the bad parts and stuff like that. And then I had a kind of secret meeting with the management back in those days, and I said, "Look, I think we should, reform the band the way it was." So this is what we did then, so she on her part influenced people, I on my part influenced other people, and then the band came back together, and then we did Objection Overruled, and that again was, the way it's supposed to be.
Hold on.
Yeah,
Just a second.
Yeah.
I have little questions. 1988, Udo released his my least favorite album of his career, which is Mean Machine, which I know you have nothing to do with that record. Maybe that's why I don't like it. Were you guys apart during this period of time? 88?
No, actually, no. The funny thing was that while we were in the studio recording Eat the Heat, Udo was on tour, recording Mean Machine and going on tour again, while we were still in the studio. So when Udo recorded Mean Machine, we were in the studio also recording Eat the Heat. And I remember that Udo coming back from the tour, Mean Machine, and he said, "Are you still recording?" Yes, we are still recording. So yeah, it's true. The song I like. I like is it the first song? Break the Rules. I love the song. I think that's a great. That's a great song. I also like the ballad. Like Sweet Little Child is a very nice ballad.
Yeah. How about Catch My Fall? Do you remember that one?
Yeah, okay. But
I love that.
That was a funny joke, But it's true. It's the songwriting is a little bit strange on the album, and the sound also is a little bit strange. I don't know. It's also not my favorite album.
Mm-hmm. Well, in 1990, you've gotten back on board to produce what I believe is the most successful UDO album to this day, right? Faceless World. I presume that Accept already broke up by that time, right? The band broke up, and then you went to work with Udo again,
exactly.
Right?
So it was this breakup, which was during the Eat the Heat tour in America. The singer David Rees, he was kind of having a drug and alcohol problem, and then after a show, I remember that I wasn't happy with the tour anyway. Nobody of us was. But then we had this after the show incident where he tried to hurt Peter. And he was totally out of his mind. And Peter, Wolf, and I, we locked ourselves in the dressing room so that he couldn't attack us. Then it was like, you know, it's no secret. I don't fucking care if anybody likes it or not, but that's the way it was.
And that's the way. That's the point of no return, right?
That to me, that was the point of no return. So I said, okay. I said to Peter and Wolf, let's meet next morning for breakfast. You know, everybody first had to come down on this evening. It was somewhere in Texas, I think. I don't know where. And I said, let's meet for breakfast, please. And so the three of us, we met, and I said, look, this is not accept anymore. I will not carry on. I want to quit. Obviously, I don't quit like now, because if you want to carry on, I will help to find, you know, very shortly a new drummer who can finish the tour. And so in the end, okay, everybody said, okay, I can understand, but we cannot cancel a tour for business reasons and stuff like that. And so we found Ken Mary, you know, the drummer now. Actually, I met him 2 years ago here in Germany again with Flotsam and Jetsam and stuff like that. I went to a show before Corona. Anyway, so then I rehearsed with him in the dressing room. We rehearsed all the songs and stuff like that. And so I think I played another 4 or 5 gigs, and he was, you know, sitting behind me and watching me. And then I remember it was close to LA somewhere where I had my last show. I said, okay, Ken, from now on, you know, you have to do it. And I drove to LAX and flew home without knowing what to do. But I knew for sure that's it for me. You know, I don't want to be part of that. And so I came back to Germany, and I was talking to Udo, obviously, and obviously Dieter Dirks and production company and everybody knew that I left the band. And then Dieter Dirks suggested, look, there is another UDO album coming up. Would you like to produce it? So, okay, I never produced an album, but I was working with Udo since, whatever, 20 years or something like that, or 15 years, 20 years, 20 years, nearly. No, 12, 13 years, anyway.
Yeah. 79 to...
79,
Yeah,
79, exactly. Right. So, and so he suggested that. So, okay, I will try my best. Had a meeting with the band. In the end, basically, I remember this one guitar player, Andy Susemil, he said, if Stefan Kaufmann is producing the record, I will quit. And Udo said, okay, then you have to quit. So that was the first record I produced. But I must say that obviously before that, being in the studio with Accept, I was always there when Udo did the vocals. You know, I was very often there when Wolf recorded the solos and stuff like that, because he very often liked me to drop the solos together, you know, because he said, you do it better than the producer, so please do it for me. So it was not like I don't know how to produce an album, but obviously to have the whole responsibility for the whole product was something different. I also wrote some songs for the album.
The song, excuse me, the song Trip to Nowhere has your fingerprint all over it. Am I right to assume that you wrote the majority of that? Yeah, that's Stefan.
I wrote the whole song, but it was also big fun back in those days, because Udo and I, we agreed that we don't care about anything. I mean, it was more like a high-tech production. It was not like 1, 2, 3, 4, let's go. But we said, if the song needs strings, we put in strings. If the song needs, you know, brass, we put in brass. If the song needs piano, we put in piano. You know, we don't care. which actually brings us now to today, because what we do with Dirk Schneider and the Old Gang, a lot of people say those 3 songs could have been on Faces World, you know, which I totally agree. This is basically the music we loved, and we simply did it the way we thought it's the way it's done. I remember that there were a lot of hard critics when the album came out.
Really?
Bad critics that, you know, this is not heavy metal anymore, and this is blah 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 and whatsoever. But in the end, it was the most selling UDO album. It's still, I must say, one of the very few albums that I produced myself that I actually put on and listened to
in its entirety.
The entire album. Actually, when I was sometimes obviously the guys we meet, I mean, now in Corona a little bit rarely, but when Matthias was here the last time, we had a nice dinner, and we simply had, you know, Faces World running and listening to it, and I said, what the fuck did you play there? And he said, what the fuck did you produce there, you know? And I mean, it's now 30 years ago, but I still have a lot of fun listening to the album. I think it still sounds good, you know, for the time being, and it's great, you know, songwriting, great, you know, arrangement, unbelievable guitar solos in there and stuff like that. So it's, I love it a lot.
Yeah. I was always fascinated by unusual studio techniques to beef up the guitars, like adding synthesizers or even piano. I don't know if you're aware of the production of Kiss Destroyer album by Bob Ezrin. He added huge piano power chords over the guitars, but you don't hear, if you're not a producer, you don't hear the piano. You hear a big guitar. So you use a lot of that, right, throughout the career, throughout UDO albums especially.
Yeah. So what I have this analog synthesizer, which actually is a Korg EX8000, and program number 55 is nothing else than a normal analog pad, artificial pad. And so what I did, not always, but very often, exactly what I play on the guitar, the exact voicing, I play on this keyboard, and then put it underneath the guitar, maybe put some high end out so that you don't that you cannot really
cannot tell,
but cannot tell. But when you turn it off, the guitar suddenly is a little bit smaller, you know. And so this is what I use very often. I still do that today, and for me it's totally legal, because when you play live, it's the volume and, you know, the fucking Marshalls and stuff like that who give this power. And what we're always trying to do is to recreate or pre-create this power on an album. And obviously not everybody is listening to an album at 110 dB at home. Yeah. So to create this kind of feeling, we always try to, you know, push it up a little bit without making it too technical. You know, I still don't like the idea of having 4 or 6 or 8 rhythm guitars. I still like the idea of one guitar there, fine. And it's the same with the support stuff. So the whatever support synths or whatever, they are also always underneath this guitar there or there, and it's quiet. But if you turn it off, you can tell. If you turn it on, it's like, yeah. So that's all, you know.
Yeah, you have to excuse my laughing, because I'm very happy that I'm confirming what I already figure out on your productions, and I copy that every single time. I put synthesizers way lower in the mix to give it width, you know.
I mean, the point is,
nice.
A lot of people try to reach the same goal with, recording 6 or 8 rhythm guitars.
Yeah.
But the problem then is that you lose the identity of the guitar. Then it's simply like, it's no longer like gag. You don't hear the
attack.
punch, you don't hear the power mutes and stuff like that. So I don't like that at all. I always, whenever I work, I have one rhythm guitar there, one rhythm guitar there. Thank you. Also on the other productions I'm doing, I'm always recording 2 single rhythm guitars, and that's it. I mean, okay, sometimes you need some overdubs to do some extra chords and stuff like that. But the basic guitar is always one on each side, and then I support it with whatever little trick is necessary. But that's it. And I don't like the idea of, a lot of modern bands are doing this, and you cannot tell that it's a guitar. It's like doing like. Now, when the last AC/DC album came out, the newest one, I was listening to it in my studio and was like, fucking hell, this is a guitar. It's like gang. It was right in my face. It felt like, the Marshall was hooked up to my monitors there. It was really like there. And that you only get when you record one guitar on each side, massive stereo, really like 100% left, 100% right. And if you record it with the proper stuff.
Yeah, all right. I'm gonna go through the records, so I have questions about that, but I'll leave it to a little bit later. In 1991, you produced their next album, the heavy Time Bomb. My favorite song there is "Kick in the Face," which I think it's yours too. You have a hand on that song.
No, actually, I think "Kick in the Face" was written by Matthias.
All right.
For sure. I didn't write too much things on this record because I don't know. I thought that the demos that the band did, like Metal Eater and Time Bomb and stuff like that, they were already great songs, and there was still this aftermath of the critics of Faces World that people were saying that it was not hard enough. And so the band, including myself, we decided, okay, then they get it harder, and so we did it harder, but still, very melodic, again, great solos, I think good songwriting, but of course a less mellow songwriting. It was a more aggressive kind of songwriting, I mean, this is a Power Squad and all that stuff that was like really heavy metal stuff, but I didn't write. For sure, "Kick on the Face" is done by Matthias.
Was he the sole guitarist on all those albums? Yeah, it sounds like it's one guy playing everything.
There was 1 or 2 little spots where he was not able to play the rhythm guitar. I played it then, but
cool.
99% of the guitars he played, yes.
Nice. So going forward on our timeline here, we have the live album, the Live Accept album in 1990, 1991, right? And you mixed it or you produced it? I didn't get that part.
The thing was that that was when Accept was already split up, and we had this Kazuku Ban thing, and the EP, and I remembered that there were 2 concerts that were recorded, plus a 3rd concert was recorded in Hammersmith Odeon in London, and Dieter Dirks asked me if we have enough material for a live double album. I said, yeah, I think so. Let me have a listen to it. And it was like pretty bad recording quality. The band played well, so there is nothing repaired on this album or something like that. But it was like really bad drum recording. You couldn't tell if this track was a hi-hat or a rectum or something like that. So we first had to, separate all that. So it was more like technical producing, So because I obviously knew exactly what the band had played, we first had to do like 2 or 3 weeks simply separating tracks and have it like cleaned up in a way so that you could do a proper mix. And it's Burning and another song. I think it's Burning and Neon Nights. I think they are actually not recorded in Japan. Those were the recordings I think done in Hammersmith Odeon, and so I put it in because I think it was important to have those two songs in on the album, and so that's a little lie. So not everything is recorded in Japan. Actually, those two songs are from London. So again, and that was a different recording, and to make it sound similar to the rest, that was, as I said, it's more like a technical producing, because back in those days the recording quality was really not nice, and it was a lot of work to get it working. But in the end, I think it's a great, how do you call it, time document. The way we played, it's not. And then again, they came up. But you do have videos, don't you? Don't you have videos? Yeah, I have, with my own camera. I recorded I recorded all the concerts in Japan, and we played 4 times Tokyo, 4 times in a row. 4 nights Tokyo, and I had, just for private use, on the first night I put it on stage left, second night stage right, third night stage center, and fourth night on me.
On you. That explains it all.
So, and then we had some handheld stuff, and whenever you see those scenes from the golf course or me flying a model plane, that was when I didn't have the scenes on camera. So I had to put some private scenes in. So that was actually how it's 4 concerts actually.
Nice. It must have been like hell to synchronize all the parts, and
it was a nightmare, because the audio tracks, they were from 1985, as much as I know, but the video tracks were from 1986. and back in those days, you didn't have like a non-linear video editing system. You had like tape machines. Whoa. And I had 8 tape machines, on Humatic. It was back in those days, still analog, and we managed to cut about 2 minutes a day.
So this album comes out and it's a huge success, right?
Yeah.
Was that the spark that got you guys talking again about? Yeah. Because when we think of it now, it seems so little time, 2 years apart, right? 3 years. But at the time, it must have felt like a decade apart, right?
It was actually, because I had so much to do with, the stuff with UDO, which obviously was Udo, then with Staying Alive, the record, the album, and Staying Alive, the video and stuff like that. For me, it felt like it was going on and going on and going on. And then when I had those talks with the management, I said, look, everything is successful the way it was. Let's maybe think about to do it again. And so I think it was more a spark for the others, that they said, okay, obviously the world likes us the way we were and not the way we are. And so it was, at least, let's say, a big part of the spark that brought the band back together again.
Nice. Didn't you guys think of putting Matthias incorporating him in Accept? Because let me clarify one thing. Objection Overruled is when I came on board. It's my first Accept record and my favorite lineup, my favorite recording, everything. But on tour, I had some bootleg videos, and the band didn't sound that great with one guitar. Don't get me wrong, Wolf is amazing, as you said, but we kind of felt that.
I know what you're saying. Absolutely. I felt the same way. The problem was, as much as I can recall, I will not mention names now, because we had a second guitar player. We also rehearsed the Objection Overruled tour with a second guitar player, who is also kind of well known still. And then I think like a week before the tour, he quit. So that Objection Overruled tour was not done on purpose with one guitar player. It was simply, you know, misfortune. That's what it was. And the bad point about that is that after this tour, more or less Wolf decided that that was very nice with only one guitar player, because it was so clean on stage. You know, you didn't have like two, and all that stuff. So it was like,
I know where you're going.
I mean, yeah. I mean, musical wise, for us, also for me as a drummer, it is true. You know, it was like really guitar there, bass there, drums here. It was really like we could. Also, me as a drummer and Peter as a bass player, we had more space to, as a musician, we had more space, you know, to do
to
whatever
breathe.
to breathe, yeah, to breathe and to act on your instrument. This is true, and so I must say that we enjoyed it in the beginning. This is also why we did, for example, Death Row, with this lineup, with with the guitar on the right side and bass on the left side and stuff like that. I mean, that's like the first Van Halen. That was the same, So.
Yeah, but I must admit that I was shocked when I got that record. Then where's the other guitar? What's going on?
I know. It was anyway. It was it was a mistake, but back in those days, it felt correct. So I don't, if you don't do mistakes, you don't know how to do it right. So we did this mistake. I think it was a mistake, but we as musicians, we had fun. So on the other hand, it was like, for the outside, it was a mistake. For us, it was fun. In the end, we understood that was not right. So and then, I mean, when Accept reunited, whatever, 10 years ago or something like that, obviously it was always done with two guitar players and stuff. I know, but absolutely, I agree.
Yeah, but I might say that album, Death Row, it aged well. The songs are very good, the riffs, the guitar riffs. And I would like to ask you if on those two albums, Objection Overruled and Death Row, was there songs written by you and Udo? And I'm asking that because on the next record, I know the band stopped crediting everything to everybody. So there are two songs there that are credited for you and Udo. So what was going on those records?
No, it was on those records. It was still the same like in the old days. So everybody came up with everything. I remember that, for example, the Spark for Protectors of Terror, I did.
Yes.
The Spark for Objection Overruled, Wolf did. I know this for sure. As much as I know the Spark for All or Nothing, Peter did. But that's only the Sparks. It's again, like that's a good example of Protectors of Terror. I came up, with the title and Protector and all that stuff, and I said, okay, Wolf, do the riff. And when you do the riff, you play the riff half as fast, and that's going to be the verse. I didn't know what the riff was then, so you do the riff. And then in the end, there again, it was like the band thought it was halftime. But then, no. It's fun. You always think slow. You always have to think fast. So, but again, that was done together. Stuff like that. And on Death Row, I mean, Protector of Terror is on Objection Overruled, and on Death Row, again, it was like, we did most of the stuff simply being, we had our own little studio back at those days already. And so we simply met and played together again, like more or less like in the old days. and coming up with, you know, ideas, stuff like that. I remember that I really enjoyed the song Death Row itself. All those long tom fills that are in there, they were not supposed to be in there. They were supposed to guide Udo when to come in with the vocals, because it's always the same riff,
Okay.
always the same riff.
Yeah.
So, and then so actually the whole drumming on this record is the demo drumming, because in the middle of the record I had to quit, and so that was the demo drumming. But then the guys put on proper bass and proper guitar, and I recorded the vocals with Udo. But this is how it, you know, this is how it developed again, you know. So all those dot 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 was not meant to be there. But in the end, I couldn't record anymore, or I stopped recording, and so we kept it, because everything, it's cool. Dot 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 dot. Okay, let's keep it. So those two records again were more or less, at least the way they were recorded and the way they, you know, evolved, was more or less the typical Accept way again, you know, like simply together and no click, no nothing, no high tech, and simply put on the Marshall, you know, and 1, 2, 3, 4, let's go.
Amazing.
And so I still, also those two, I know that Death Row could have been much better with 2 guitars, no doubt about it. You know, should be 2 rhythm guitars, normal sound, but I still like to listen to the album, because again, it has its own atmosphere, you know, because we played it together. It was there in this, you know, the room was about that size, or maybe a little bit bigger than this room, with the drums and bass rig and guitar rig set up. And then simply 1, 2, then, and Wolf started with a no click, no nothing. And then we looked at each other there, you know, and simply looking at each other and playing the song and recording it. And this is, to me, the way at least proper rock music should be recorded, you know, and not, you know, like all the, I call it, you know, laptop office works, what they do nowadays. Of course, it's nice to have all the little gadgets and all the tools and stuff like that. But to me, the Pro Tools that I got, to me, is still like, it's a mixing console and it's a tape machine. Okay, it's on 2 screens, but basically I still look at it the way I look at an SSL and Telefunken 24 track or whatever, you know. So this is, in my opinion, the way that a good sounding record should be done. You know, when you listen to the latest AC/DC stuff or something like that, they still do it this way, and it comes across, you know.
Speaking of AC/DC, I always had the impression that 3 bands are your main influences: AC/DC, Judas Priest, and Deep Purple. Am I right? The Beatles also?
No.
You're not a Beatles fan?
No. I mean, I admire what they did. Basically, they paved the way for all kind of rock music, for, you know, young people making music for themselves, writing and playing. They were the first, basically. So I admire what they did. Also with the Stones, but it's not my type of music. You know, it's like at least 1 generation before
older.
me.
Older.
It's true. I would say Deep Purple / Rainbow. So it was like, but it's true. It's AC/DC and it's Judas Priest and it's, let's say, Blackmore. So wherever, you know, it's yeah. I mean, I'm a Blackmore fan. Wolf also liked him a lot. You know, I like the way he plays riffs. I like the way he plays solos. Okay, he's a strange mind, but I went to a lot of Purple concerts back in the 70s and 80s. I've seen, I don't know how many Rainbow concerts, and I've seen great ones and I've seen horrible ones, you know, depending on how Richie's mood was. But yeah, it's true. But I must say that also one of my big influence still is the Sweet, you know. So this.
Oh, really?
This is my.
I'm a huge fan.
Yes, this is still my number 1 band, you know. So
number 1 band. Wow.
And still my number 1 drummer. I had the honor of meeting Andy Scott, I think 4 or 5 years ago. I met him So he's one of my heroes, and I got a picture with him up there in my studio. I'm very proud of that. And I could tell him, something similar what you are telling me now. I could say, because he's about 15 years older than I, or something like that. And I could say, do you remember Düsseldorf, the Philipshalle in 1972? You started with Hellraiser and with the banana thing and all that stuff. And he said, yeah. I remember all that. That's around the corner here. And said, yeah. And so he especially, but also the whole band, to me, is still a big influence in what I'm doing today. Because I think they're one of the most underrated bands in the world. The musicians themselves, they were great musicians: bass player, guitar player,
Steve,
drummer,
and singers.
And singers, all four fantastic singers.
Do you like those 3 albums? My favorites: The Cut Above the Rest, Water's Edge, and Identity Crisis. That's my band.
To be quite honest, my band started with the very first album, Sweet Fanny Adams. Sweet Fanny Adams, when that came out, because I was only used to the normal stuff. There was a little bit Hellraiser and stuff like that. It was a little bit harder. The B-sides of the singles were always kind of hard rock, heavy metal stuff.
Written by the band, right? The B-sides.
Written by the band, and great stuff there. And then I remember that, and on the album that they released were always like best-offs with some weird stuff. And then suddenly the Sweet Fanny Adams album came out with all new stuff. And I thought, okay.
And that riff.
Unbelievable. It was similar. I remember, I was still like little, I don't know when it came out, 73 or something like that, or 74.
Yeah, 74.
I remember buying the album, the record, and because it was a long way home to my parents' house, but my grandparents, they lived in the city, I went straight to my grandparents, to their record player, and put the record out. I said, I cannot wait, I have to listen to that. And it started with Set Me Free. And it was like, what the fuck, and I listened to the whole album. Then, I don't know, 3 times, 4 times or something like that, my grandparents, and said, okay, you need to go home now, and blah, blah, blah. And I simply couldn't get it, what they were doing on this record. There's so many stuff, musical-wise, composing-wise, of course, drumming, guitar playing, bass playing, singing, and stuff like that. It's such a big variety. And then also, so I prefer the first 3 albums, which is Sweet Fanny Adams, and then Desolation Boulevard, and then I think it was
Give Us a Wink.
Give Us a Wink. Give Us a Wink was a strange sound for some reason, strange drum sound and stuff like that, but a great atmosphere and like strange songs on it. But you had to get used to it. I like albums where I have to get used to. It's not like the first thing, that's it, because then you maybe listen to it 10 times and then, okay, that's it. I like it was the same like when Painkiller came out. I remember for sure that when Painkiller came out, Matthias came to my house and he rang at, I think, 10 in the morning, which was totally forbidden to disturb me before 12 o'clock. And so I still remember what he did. So he rang, and I was really angry, and going to the door and opening the door. What do you want? And he had this CD. I said, okay, come in. And then we listened to Painkiller, the whole, more or less the whole day, and analyzing it, and blah, blah, blah. And that was like very similar to my experience when Sweet Fanny Adams came out. That I thought, this is unbelievable. This is every song is good on this record. And I still listen to it. I still listen to this record or to these records because I'm still not used to it. There's still so much. It's a little bit like Faces World. I still can listen to it because there's so much in it, and it doesn't get boring. It's not like a number one song and okay, thank you very much. After 4 weeks, fine.
Yeah.
And so this is what I still remember. A very similar thing is that I got the first Rammstein album before it came out. So I got this pre thing in the cardboard box or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And but that was the same. It was like, what is this? That is new music, you know. It was, and I was in the studio producing another band, and I said, okay, everybody out, and I put on this record and I listened to it the whole night, you know, like over and over and over again, and I still can listen to it because there's so much in it and so much going on. I mean, I don't mean overproduced, but it's like so much atmosphere and so much personality and everything. So, you know, it's not a lot of albums where I can say I can do that, but those albums, you know, like Sweet Fanny Adams, Painkiller, is it Herzeleid, first Rammstein, right? You know, and stuff. I still can listen to it and I don't get bored.
Nice. It shows on your music, those influences.
Oh yeah,
those three. Yeah. What about Slade? No love for Slade?
Oh yes. Oh yeah. Oh, I mean, back in the 70s. Back in the 70s, I was a total glam rock fan. So I had it all. I had all T-Rex and Slade and Sweet and Suzy Quattro and Smokey, Gary Glitter, all that stuff. Tremolos and actually Geordie I was listening to, you know, singer of AC/DC. Black Cat Woman and all that stuff. I was listening to that. Yeah, I was absolute top of the pops. London, we could get it here. So there was always all those glam rock bands. That's what I grew up with. But then I remember, and this is something you cannot imagine nowadays, it was like on a Sunday morning, Radio Luxembourg, which was the biggest radio station nationwide, or European-wide radio station in Europe back in those days. On the Sunday morning, they played the whole Deep Purple live album, Made in Japan, in the radio.
The whole thing.
The whole thing, all four sides, you know. And I was listening to that actually in this room, because that was the living room of my parents, and the radio was standing there in the corner, and I was listening to that. And on Monday morning, in the first school break, I went to the record shop because that was not far away from my school. I said, Made in Japan. I want to have it, you know, this golden thing there. And then I bought this, and I was already friend with Jörg Fischer. And so we met in the afternoon and listening to this album, you know, again, up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down. And that was basically my spark for a little bit harder music, you know. So, I mean, I always tended to be, you know, I love the hard music. So I love the B-sides of the Sweet, and I loved like Geordie, which was a little bit more heavy. Slade also was a little bit more heavy, you know, Squeeze Me, Tease Me, Please Me, and all that stuff. Yeah. But then with that was actually my first Deep Purple record, you know. And then when I heard this record, I bought all the other ones, you know, the ones that were before there. And I still remember when Machine Head came out, we were listening to it again over and over and over and over again. When this, you know, I mean, Highway Star, that was something unheard of. So I think actually that, you know, Highway Star is, or when you listen to Fireball, I mean, this drum intro is played with one bass drum. It's, you know, it's amazing. It's unbelievable. So a lot of those influences, and actually I must admit also Frank Zappa, because when I was a young drummer, before I went to Accept, I started professional. I mean real drumming at the age of 13. I was together with local musicians. Obviously, they were all older than I was, and so there was a lot of things going on, like Frank Zappa, Led Zeppelin, and all the stuff that is more or less one generation before me, you know, and so, but I learned to admire those artists because of their outstanding creativity. It's not like that. It's like, I like to listen to this music, and I could listen to it while I'm, you know, being in the kitchen, but I can actually listen to the music. That means sitting there and really concentrating on this song and listening to what all the instruments are doing and what, how it's produced, how it's sounding and stuff like that. So that also influenced us. I must say Peter as well. I know for sure. I don't know so much about Wolf, but it also influenced us, but not with copying that. It's simply like it's
Being
the
inspired.
creativity. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. What about prog bands like Yes, Gentle Giant, or even Wishbone Ash, which is not prog rock, but you weren't into those bands?
No.
No.
But to be quite honest, I was, me personally, I was always the commercial guy. So
Okay.
I always liked what was, in the charts and stuff like that. That was always nice. And then you may not forget songs like "Smoke on the Water" and stuff like that. They were in the charts
Mm-hmm.
together with normal German music and stuff like that. They were in the charts, so it was chart music. And because I was actually I also was the youngest in the set, so I always played with older musicians, and they were always in like Yes and Genesis and Wishbone Ash and Led Zeppelin and stuff like that. And that was never really my cup of tea. Never.
Okay.
It was. I enjoyed playing Zeppelin. I remember that on my very first gig I did when I was not even 14 years old. I had to play The Ocean from Led Zeppelin, which is a 5/4 beat, so it's not like you had to count and do stuff. And on the same gig, I had to play Take 5, jazz.
Yeah.
Thing, stuff like that. So I'm also a little bit influenced with this complex kind of prog rock music, but it's not that I like to listen to it, but I admire what they do, but it was never really my cup of tea. I like more the AC/DC, Priest, Sweet, Rammstein,
Nice.
whatever stuff.
Nice. Well, Stefan, do we have time to go through UDO albums?
Of course.
All right. There's one album left. That's Predator. You have 2 songs in there, and it will sound like ass kissing, but it's not. My favorite song was always "Run Through the Night." Always. The first time that I listened, whoa, that riff. Was that song a leftover from previous albums, or you wrote it for
Yeah.
that project? Okay.
I was already because Udo and I at that time we were living close together. We were only like 2 miles apart or something like that. And he asked me if we could do some songs for the Predator album, and so I said, yeah, of course we can do that. So I think we came up with 4 songs, and then the 2 ended up on the album, and this is how it was done. So I already had my studio there, so I could quickly record the demo together with Udo, and then Udo took the songs and flew over to America and said, here, I want to do those 4 songs. I think it was 4, yeah. And then those 2 songs were left over. Yeah, it's true. I mean, I love the song Predator. I love the title track. I don't like the middle part, with this horrible solo stuff, but I like the basic idea of it. I like the riff. I love that. Actually, we played it a couple of times live with UDO because I love the song so much that I said I really would like to play this song. The audience never really liked it, so but I always loved this song. But it's true, there is a lot of crappy songwriting on this.
Yeah, as long as you didn't choose a primitive to play.
No, it's horrible. No. That's true.
Yeah.